This is an overview of investigating plate tectonics with Google Earth. Open up the Investigating Plate Tectonics with Google Earth document, and you can see there are some tips about using Google Earth you should read about. And there is a link in the document that if you want to learn more about Google Earth, you can do so. At this time, we should probably open up Google Earth so we can manipulate it and add in our KMZ files, which are listed here and here. We're going to open up Plate Tectonics Exercises KMZ first, and then later on Part 2 KMZ. Since these are both fairly large files, you don't necessarily need to have them both open at the same time, or at least at the beginning, because it will slow down Google Earth. In the lab, you should have Google Earth on your desktop, or at least in the toolbar someplace where you go into search windows for Google Earth or Google Earth Pro. I have it opened up here, and we will take a look at some of the navigation options. One of the things you can do is just scroll in, and as you scroll in, you will see that it populates with more and more detail. As a matter of fact, it may even populate too much detail. Now the loading is a little bit slow because of this screencasting, so I'm going to speed it up a little bit. I'm going to look over on the left-hand side and see what I can turn off. For instance, I can turn on global awareness, which is going to add a whole lot more things, but I want to keep it off. I'll keep the gallery off. I will keep the terrain on because that's what we're looking for. And as you see, I can zoom in and we're seeing more and more detail. We can get all kinds of information out of it now. And we're starting to see the topography. And a little quick jump ahead, I zoomed into the area of our study for our topographic maps for last week's lab. You can see the Salem area and the White House Bridge area. Kind of neat. You can zoom in and look at Google Earth from many different directions. You can turn the navigation around a little bit. You can move it, make it north towards the top of the map. You can make it any other way you want to look at it just by clicking on the little north button there. You can also zoom around a little bit. You can tilt the map so you get a more 3D perspective. And zoom, fly in. Use your mouse wheel. You can zoom in. You can see, it's a kind of weird looking bridges there, but you can see some of the objects that we were looking at in the last lab. There's the cemetery that we were looking at, and the sinkhole to the northeast of the cemetery is right there. You can see that. We're going to actually hopefully go out on a field trip and see this for real. If you want to get back to an overhead view, press the U key, and that will put you up to an overhead view. I'm not sure why it's the U key, but it's there. And we can go and zoom in and out with the mouse wheel. You can also put yourself in the place, and it will take you into what's called Street View, in which case then you can see and look around. By the way, that benchmark that I was looking for is right about there. Kind of a difficult thing to get to on the highway. To get out of Street View, just switch back by clicking the button, and we will go to an overhead. Whoops, let's go back and do that right. We're at ground level, and we're going to switch between ground level and Street View. Exit ground level view. And those bridges are not right. Okay. Anyway, overhead view, zooming back out, and we will go to what the exercise we're working on now. So if you click on the exercise here, the KMZ file, and then click on the file itself, it will try to open up, and we'll see that it really doesn't. It's going to just kind of say, whoa, there's a problem. And what we need to do is we need to download this to our desktop. So we click on download, and it should send it to our desktop. And I'm going to put it, I'm actually going to put it right out on the desktop so that we can find it. And we will click on the save button. There we go. That's all there is to it. Now you can navigate out of this screen and close it down. You can't see it off the top of the screen. I'm just going to close that screen down because it doesn't do anything. In the taskbar, you can switch back to Google Earth. And now we are going to want to add this file to our places. We have some places here that we're going to be looking at, and we're going to put it into our temporary places. Okay, so click on the file indicator or the file menu, and you will see open. You can do a Control-O to open if you prefer. I need to go to my desktop, which is where I am, and that's where I saved the file, and it was called Plate Tectonics Exercise KMZ. Select that and say open. It will take a few seconds for it to open. Like I said, it's a rather large file. We're going to take a look at it. It'll show up here in the temporary places, and we're going to see what happens. Okay, it took a little while to load up, and we can see that there are a number of things that loaded up. Plate Tectonics Exercises KMZ. It has a number of things: convergence, maps, cross sections. I'm going to turn the cross sections on, and that's one of the things we're going to be looking for in our investigation. Let me click off of that, and we see that one of the cross sections below, or I should say on the cross section below, we're going to mark the transition from continental crust to oceanic crust. Well, here's a cross section. That's right there. There are two ways to do this. One way would be to click on the graphic, or at least actually I'm going to have to give myself a little space, so I'm going to add a couple of lines here. One way would be to click above the graphic and then use the insert, and I could insert, for instance, I could insert a special character, or I can insert a drawing. Not necessarily the best way, but I'll show you how to do that. Let's go to New Drawing. It will give us the drawing tool. We can open up these things, shapes, make arrows, make a down arrow, just boom, like that. Close and save, and it should go back to the original in just a moment. Once I've closed and saved, there will be some things you can do here. You can edit the object once you pick it in inline, text wrap, text break. I want to select text break, and then that allows me to move it wherever I'd like to and point out any feature I'm looking for. The problem is it really won't let you do a whole lot because it won't let you put it over top of this document. Now we could copy this over and put it in the graphic editor and put the arrow on top of it, and that would work out just fine. I'm going to show you another way to do this. I'm going to delete all these things out of here, get rid of that, and I'm actually going to delete this out of there, and we're going to actually create a new one. So we switch over to Google Earth. I want the Atlantic cross section. That's the one I'm going to be working on. A cross section, if you remember from the topographic maps, is a side view of the Earth, as if you were going to cut it apart and take a look at the features, the ups and downs. And here's the features we're going to be looking at. We're going to be looking at going from Florida across the continental shelf, the abyssal plain, into the mid-oceanic ridge, some more abyssal plain, then back over to Africa, just missing the islands here, Cape Verde Islands, coming up onto a continental shelf, and then the continent itself. We can take a look there, and we can look at the menus up here. We can view, and one of the views, we can change the scale, the overview, which I don't really need the map overview. We can look at watery surfaces, and we can also make it your start location. Not necessarily what we want to do. We can switch over to Edit and come down here to Show Elevation Profile. And what that's going to do is give us a little outline of the Earth here, the ups and downs of this profile line. So now I have this. I'm going, wow, well, where is the continental shelf? I see a mid-ocean ridge. I see abyssal plain. See something there. I'm not really sure. We'll look at it a little bit later maybe. Now we're looking at like, oh, there's continental slope. That's pretty steep, but there it is, continental shelf. And then we're up on the continent itself. So we're looking for the ocean features that we have learned a little bit about in class. One of the ways to do this would be to find a spot where you think you would like to have this line, this indicator line. I'm going to pick right here, and then I'm going to go off the bottom of the screen, and I'm going to look for a little object called Snipping Tool. And I'm just going to open up Snipping Tool, and you can see Snipping Tool looks like this. If you don't see it on your desktop or you don't see it on your toolbar, go to the search bar at the box at the bottom of the screen and type in Snipping Tool. Well, you click on New Snipping Tool, and let me go back again. New Snipping Tool, and we will snip that out. And there's a copy of it. So we say copy, go back over to my document that I'm working on, and I can get rid of that and do a Control V and replace it. And there is my line that I was looking for in Part 1. This is the basic way you're going to be doing some editing. I prefer it to this point of view over the putting the arrow in and moving it around, although the arrow is a little bit easier to see, a little bit bolder. Then I'm going through the rest of the lab. You will see that I ask you some questions. You're going to be looking at some more cross sections. The snipping tool is the way to put those in, and we have quite a few of those in there actually. Taking a look through the rest of it, there's some things that we're going to do. Towards the end, this one we're going to work on a little differently. In order to work with this map, we might need to, first of all, copy it. And we can go up here to Insert, Drawing, and we will go to New. And I'm going to right-click and paste it. Whoops, it's not going to let me do that, so I'm going to do a Control V, and it's going to paste it in. Now if I go back to the tools, it says to show me where I have convergent and divergent boundaries. So I'm going to have to pick a shape here, and I'm going to pick basically a scribble shape, and we need to pick some colors, so we're going to do that. Once I've selected my scribble tool, I can then go through and I can mark, select the scribble tool again, and we're going to mark out, it doesn't have to be real accurate, we're going to mark out the boundary. For instance, this is a divergent boundary, and I'm going to go like that, and when I finish, it allows me to pick a line color, and so you can color code it as I suggested on the page of the instructions, and so we can pick a color. You can also make it a little bit wider so you can see it. And you can go through and finish up your map that way. Do a save and close, and we will see that it comes out like that. So I was selecting a red boundary as a divergent and I would type that in there, and I would probably move my little line over there so it would look neater. Anyway, that's the way you're going to finish that map up. Of course, you have to do it all at once, and then, well, you don't have to do it all at once. You can do it piece by piece and then save it.